Youjo Senki movie, or the Saga of Tanya the Evil, the movie, as I'll title this video, involves Tanya's country going to war against what is basically Russia, and they end up getting way in over their head in this massive battle when who I assume is a pedophile ends up catching sight of Tanya and decides to divert an extraordinary amount of troops to Tanya's military position. She thinks it's because this is some big-brained military play, but the movie makes it very clear that this guy just has an obsession with Tanya. Now, it's not clear if he's an actual pedophile or if he just wants to collect her like a doll or what have you, because he doesn't actually get a hold of Tanya in this movie, but something's going on with that guy, and he's certainly creepy. It also involves a sort of private military company who ends up getting into a battle with Tanya's group specifically, but who also contains a girl named Mary Sue. That is her name. I'm not calling her that. That is her actual name. Who is the daughter of that dude that Tanya killed in season 1 towards the end, who Tanya jacked the gun of, and is also given just an outrageous amount of magical power by being X, just like an absolutely ludicrous amount. Like, she is a weapon of mass destruction, Mary Sue is. Looking back at the movie, there's definitely a lot I enjoyed about it. But while watching it, I didn't find myself particularly engaged with it. I think a big contribution to that might be that there's quite a bit of combat in this movie, probably a bit more than there would be in a typical episode of the show, as one would expect, as this is like an hour 40, basically. But I do find myself sort of losing a bit of interest as we get to see the minutiae of all of the soldiers fighting. The animation is very good, the combat scenes are exciting, it just didn't necessarily hold my attention in that regard, but there is definitely a lot more to enjoy about this movie than to not enjoy about it. First off, I think this movie specifically is very well structured for a movie. A lot of anime movies can feel just sort of like a cash grab that didn't need to be a movie, but I think the opening of establishing the characters and establishing Tanya, then them going on to the Russian attack, and then that directly leading into the consequences of the final battle, followed by an epilogue, very good story structure, very good pacing. You don't see that in a lot of anime movies. So I do understand. I think it's a little more justified to make this a movie, although it could have easily been about 4 or 5 episodes of the show as well. Especially because I don't think necessarily that anything happens in this movie. This feels very much like an introductory portion of it, because at the end, Tanya receives what is basically a regimen, and we're introduced to Mary Sue, who I am pleasantly surprised survives this movie, because I think Mary Sue is an excellent foil for Tanya. She's basically Tanya if she was being genuine, and she has like a lot of Tanya's personality traits, the strong magic, the being like respected by other soldiers, stuff like that, is also a tiny loli and has to pray to God in order to unleash her magical powers, but she's doing it from an actual place of religion rather than being forced to by being X like Tanya is. She's an excellent foil. Very glad to see that she survived, and she has a link to a previous character, so she's led into very well. And we're also introduced to Pedophile Man, who may or may not be a pedophile, but we don't really get to see the interaction between him and Tanya. So there's a lot of setup in this movie, even though it has a good structure, and I don't feel like nothing is specifically accomplished other than an expansion of Tanya's military power. So it definitely feels like a transitionary sort of movie, which I guess further lends it to being a movie, so that this specific story arc might not have fit so cleanly into, say, a 12-episode season. Anyway, good structure, exciting action scenes, all the characters you know and love, as well as some new ones that are kind of interesting. I laughed when they were attacking Russia. I thought that was hilarious, that they just started singing the national anthem in the middle of it. That's great. And of course, the ploy to put Tanya in charge of an entire regiment at the end by the military leaders just laughed my ass off, that Tanya finally got that like backline cushy office job that she always wanted, and then is immediately dragged out of it with an even bigger frontlines military posting. Hilarious. It is an enjoyable experience, front to back, and I just felt like I just didn't vibe with it. I just didn't vibe with it. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic, your envoy of hope. Bye-bye.